Welcome to the Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, July 21st, 2022. The time now is 2:01 p.m. I'm President Robert Ahn. I'll be chairing this meeting, and the following commissioners have also joined this meeting virtually via Zoom. We have Vice President Mason, we have Commissioners Crockett and Naro, as well as DCR's Interim Executive Director, Michelle Grockian, along with members of the department and the City Attorney's Office. I'm going to go over some general instructions before we begin the meeting today. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being conducted virtually via Zoom and is being live streamed on DCR's website. Those who wish to watch this meeting can do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.org and clicking the About menu item on the top. Under the About menu, click the Commission Meetings link. Scroll down to the bottom of the Commission Meetings page to find the live stream. You can also listen to this meeting by calling council phone at 213-621-2489 or 818-904-9450 and select the number for this meeting. Members of the public can offer public testimony by calling 877-853-5257 or 888-475-4499. Enter meeting ID 860-838-7310. These numbers are also on the agenda for this meeting. Today's meeting agenda can be found on the department's website at cannabis.lacity.org and navigating to the commission page under the About menu. This meeting is being recorded, therefore we ask all speakers to please state your name clearly before you speak. The audio file will be posted online within 48 hours of the meeting. If you're in the Zoom call, when the item you wish to speak on is called, press star 9 to get on the speaking queue. We'll call out each speaker by the last 4 digits of their phone to identify the caller. The caller will be prompted to unmute themselves by dialing star 6. If there are no other items you wish to speak on, you may disconnect from this call and view the meeting via the live stream or dial council phone to listen only. We'll follow the agenda order today, and the presentation at this hearing to the commission will be available on the department's website within 2 business days from this meeting. We'll consider general public comment and single or multiple agenda items together. Therefore, speakers will have 1 minute for general public comment and 1 minute per item with a maximum of 2 minutes for multiple items. Speakers should state whether they are providing general public comment and or which other items they are speaking on before they begin so that staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they are speaking on, only 1 minute will be provided. Let's go ahead and open the general public comment and single or multiple agenda items. Speakers can address the commission on non-agenda related items that are within the jurisdiction of the commission or provide public comment for items in today's agenda by dialing star 9 on your telephone. If you're listening on the live stream and have called to provide public comment, please mute the live stream audio before you begin speaking to eliminate the feedback. Commissioners and staff, please mute your microphones. Ms. Treviso, please call the first speaker.
If you wish to provide public comment, please dial star 9. Caller with phone number ending in 6474. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Sure, my name is Mike Sagan, and I'd like to speak on all agenda items.
Sure, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm not going to give a long-winded speech here, but I'm not sure if the commission is aware that DCR has started using its discretion to abandon some phase 3 retail round 1 applications. The reason DCR is abandoning these applications is because the department decided to invoice these applicants for some documents to be reviewed, even though these documents were not even yet submitted to DCR for review. The applicants were never given a deadline or any sort of email communication from any DCR staff or their actual analyst regarding any potential deadlines for document submission or that any potential balances might be due or upcoming in the future. The state, who deals with applicants across all of California, sends follow-up after follow-up after follow-up to applicants, reminding them of deadlines or fees due or whatnot, before abandoning applications. So these applicants that got their applications abandoned would like some clarity from DCR. And if DCR does not have the manpower to stay in touch with these applicants on a more personal level, then why are they adding more work by abandoning these applications? A few of my clients who have had their applications abandoned immediately refiled them well over a month ago. And now DCR is missing in action and somewhat leaving the applicants out to dry. And God forbid, they can potentially lose their locations that they've spent so much money on due to a sensitive use potentially popping up. DCR has definitely done a disservice to these social equity applicants, since the department is now not ready to get the applicants revested at their locations, which they have spent a lot of money on. Please, commissioners, at the end of this meeting, when it's time for some Q&A between the commission and DCR, please ask them some questions regarding this matter so we can all be on the same page. The uncertainty is really fearful for these applicants who have spent a lot of time and money to navigate this process. Thank you so much to all of you for your time, and hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you. If anyone wishes to provide public comment, please dial *9. President On, I don't see any callers on the queue.
Let's give it another half minute. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close both the general public comment agenda item and the single or multiple agenda item periods. And we'll move on to commission business. Item number 1, it's our annual election of the officers today. Let's begin with a motion for commission president.
This is Vice President Mason. I would like to move that Commissioner Robert Ahn be reappointed as Commission President.
Thank you, Vice President Mason. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Naro, I second the motion.
Okay, Commissioners Naro with the second. Ms. Treviso, please call the roll.
Vice President Mason, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Commissioner Naro, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Crockett, how do you vote?
Aye.
President On, how do you vote?
Aye.
The motion is 4-0. I'm sorry, the vote is 4-0 and the motion passes. Congratulations, President On.
Thank you very much. And next we'll have the election of Vice President. Is there a motion for Commission Vice President?
This is Commissioner Crockett. I move to reappoint Commissioner Mason as Vice President.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Naro, I second the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Naro with the second. Ms. Treviso, please call the roll.
Commissioner Crockett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Naro, how do you vote?
Aye.
President On, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice President Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 4-0 and the motion passes. Congratulations, Vice President Mason.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, moving on, you should have an advanced calendar in front of you with our future dates. Please take a look and advise of any planned absences for those dates. Not seeing any, so let's go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes. We were sent the minutes of June 30, 2022 for review. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Commissioner Nato, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 30th meeting.
We have a motion from Commissioner Naro, a second.
Commissioner Crockett, I second.
Commissioner Crockett with a second. Mr. Vizo, please call the roll.
Commissioner Naro, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Crockett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice President Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
President On, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 4-0 and the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to commission announcements and updates. Commissioners, do we have any at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to future agenda requests. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2. Item number 2 is the finding to continue teleconference meetings pursuant to AB 361, which requires that all legislative bodies make findings concerning the state of emergency stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic to continue holding virtual meetings. Do I have a motion to approve and continue teleconference meetings pursuant to AB 361?
This is Commissioner Crockett. I move that the commission determine in accordance with AB 361, Section 3E3, that this legislative body has considered the circumstances of the state of emergency and that the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person, and or state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Nato, I second the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Naro with a second. Mr. Vizo, please call the roll.
Commissioner Crockett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Naro, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice President Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
President On, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 4-0 and the motion passes.
Thank you. So moving on to item number 3, this is the report from DCR regarding general administration, application, and licensing activities. Ms. Grockian?
Hello,
Hello there.
can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. And can you see me okay? I see
We can see you.
myself. We are good. All right, I have some brief remarks today. I'm not going to be long, so we will begin. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Michelle Garakian. I currently have the honor of serving as the Executive Director on an interim basis of the City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation, otherwise known as DCR. I'm going to provide a brief update on the work DCR has accomplished in the past few months. However, before I begin, I want to take a moment to thank our constituency who continue to tune into this meeting, tune into past meetings and other DCR events in the last few months. We continue to welcome your engagement via these events, email, or phone. I also want to give a shout out to the DCR team who are working very hard to ensure that the department's shift into a more business-friendly environment is successful and long-lasting. I also wanted to congratulate President On and Vice President Mason on reappointment to their commission appointments, and the rest of this commission for their incredible work and attention to detail and keeping us on the ball. So thank you. Lastly, I wanted to thank the Mayor's Office for their continued assistance and partnership, and our council partners, especially our Plum Chair, Councilmember Marquis Harris-Dawson and his staff, for their continued partnership and continued support. I'm going to dip now into specific divisions of our department. I'm going to start with licensing. Jason will be providing a more in-depth presentation after me, and he will go a little bit more into these numbers and other items that I briefly detail in my report. As of June 9th, DCR has issued approximately 1,400 licenses, and approximately 30 of those licenses have been granted to social equity applicants. As of today, there are a total of 710 businesses with temporary approval licenses. Last Friday, DCR sent out a blast letting folks know that the ASELA licensing portal was going to be down for the weekend and for 15 days thereafter to prepare for the implementation of important streamlining measures for applicants and licensees. We are happy to announce that DCR was able to achieve these updates last weekend, and the portal is now up and running. Later on, Jason will go into the particulars of these streamlining measures. We also inform folks that we are experiencing a very brief delay in processing land use specific modification requests. DCR is working very hard to backfill a recently vacated position to ensure that there isn't too much delay to folks going through this process. The reason why I'm telling everybody this today, and we sent out these emails, is because in the spirit of transparency, we want to make sure we are constantly communicating with our constituency so folks who are making business decisions can factor this delay into those decisions. However, DCR is working hard to meet the deadlines outlined in the ordinance passed in April. And beside this one particular delay, we are chugging along and processing applications. Jason will get into that later. On the social equity front, as you know, commissioners and folks that are on the line, the 60-day social equity individual applicant verification request period ends at 4 p.m. this coming Monday, July 25th. To date, we have received more than 850 requests to be verified, and DCR will begin reviewing those requests after the submission period closes. I strongly urge folks to make sure that you get these submissions in as soon as possible. If you have any questions related to this, the DCR social equity team is available to answer those questions and can be reached at dcr.sep@lacity.org via email. They will turn around those responses quite quickly. We have fee waivers for all of the submissions that have been sent so far, and we'll likely have fee waivers available for further submissions. Happy to report that more than 500 individuals attended or watched the 2 verification webinars that we've hosted. More than 2 verification webinars that we've hosted in the last several months. Furthermore, we developed one-on-one appointments for folks that are interested in going through this process. And we're happy to report that more than 70 one-on-one appointments were attended by prospective verification requesters. And these appointments were administered by our BLC vendor. I want to thank them very much. They've done superlative work. DCR will have at least 90 calendar days to process eligibility verification requests after the submission period close. We hope we're not going to take all those 90 days, but we do have those 90 days because we want to prepare to open up the lottery soon thereafter. Please note that as part of the effort to assist individuals requesting to be verified, we've hosted multiple verification webinars that are archived and online on the verification webpage on our website. We have one-on-one counseling appointments that have been available. We've developed FAQ and other collateral material, videos to walk folks through how to submit and upload their information to the verification job form. We have sent out weekly reminders via our listserv, informing folks about the deadline and resources available. The last one just went out this morning. We're going to have another one go out on Monday morning at 8 a.m. to just let folks know there's a few hours left. And we have fielded dozens of questions from participants asking about the verification process at Jason's very popular virtual lunch Q&A that is conducted each month. The BLC program, that's a business licensing and compliance program that is facilitated by Dr. Amani Brown and her brilliant staff, is revamping its job board and is currently doing outreach to cannabis businesses in Los Angeles, asking for their assistance in adding job openings. We expect the job board website to launch in late summer, early fall. Further, we are encouraging all social equity applicants and licensees to utilize the learning management system, the LMS, as they're moving through the licensure process. There have been several cases we've heard of folks applying for delivery licenses and getting approved just based on going through the learning management system. So it shows that it works. Based on the success of the pro bono legal assistant program between LACBA and DCR, the department is working to launch a low bono legal assistance program with LACBA soon to provide more legal access to applicants and licensees. I just want to give a strong kudos to Dr. Brown and her team. You guys are killing it. Communications and outreach. As promised back in April 2022, when I took over this position, DCR would improve transparency by enhanced communication, outreach, and events. In total, the communications team has sent over, I think, 40 some odd blasts since May to inform stakeholders of the verification process, the virtual lunch Q&A sessions, the LA County Health Inspection and Emblem Program webinars, DCR's Grow Career Fair, our quarterly news bulletin, which was just sent on the 17th. It was long. There was a lot of information. It is archived on our website. Please take a look. And the Spark video, which we launched, sent an email about yesterday to our listserv. And the Spark initiative, just to digress a bit, was designed to receive feedback from key and local stakeholders on issues that matter to and impact the Los Angeles cannabis community. We sent out this video. It's a wonderful video. I encourage you guys all to take a look at it. It's on our website. I believe it's on our carousel at the moment. We've sent emails about the job board, updates to the licensing portal, and changes to our rules, regulations, and ordinance, as well as a lot of BLC related activity, including the cannabis dispatch, which was just sent out yesterday. Sorry, 2 days ago. We've also been hosting these monthly webinars with Jason. These Q&A sessions have been super popular. We've held sessions on May 3rd, June 2nd, and July 14th. The next one is scheduled for August 4th. They're very well attended. We ask that folks remit questions in advance, and we usually get to about 40 or 50 questions each session, and then we're able to answer questions live as they're delivered to us. These are awesome. You're able to connect with Jason and talk about things that you may have concerns about or questions, whatever it may be. So I strongly encourage folks to attend when they can. Media-wise, the LA County DCR Emblem Program garnered significant media attention from the Los Angeles Daily News, Green Entrepreneur, Cannabis Business Times, MJ Business Daily, and the City News Service. I want to thank the communications team for continuing to stay on top of this. Moving on to compliance and enforcement, want to thank Rocky Wiles and her team for developing this division and doing an exceedingly wonderful job in building it up. We're going to hear more from her in the next commission meeting about where they are with their efforts. The CED, as we call it, continues to work with partner agencies in supporting them in their efforts to crack down on illegal cannabis businesses across the city. DCR has been directed by the City Council to co-author a report with the Chief Legislative Analyst, or the CLA, to report on best practices across the country regarding shutting down and permanently closing illegal cannabis businesses who negatively impact neighborhoods and licensed cannabis businesses. DCR will be working with its vendor MBI to build 3 outreach sessions across the city to collect stakeholder comments, feedback, and recommendations regarding enforcement and compliance issues specific to their community. Each session will target a specific demographic area in the city. These sessions will take place in the next 2 months. We will be sending a blast about this, and we'll be working with our council partners to ensure that homeowner groups, neighborhood councils, local cannabis community are invited to provide their feedback. The CED has also been working with ITA on enhancing and customizing the cannabis complaint portal to better serve the public, including outside agencies, to improve the complaint management and reporting to the city. And lastly, DCR, in conjunction with the LA County Department of Public Health, will be hosting an informational webinar on the joint health inspections and the emblem program next week on Wednesday, July 27th. If you are a licensee, we strongly encourage you to attend that. And or you are an applicant in the licensing process, please attend. That is it for me. I just want to say thank you everybody for attending. This is a very, very brief overview of all the activities that we have engaged in the past few months. I'm now going to turn it over to Jason Killeen, the Assistant Executive Director who oversees licensing at the Department of Cannabis Regulation. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Director. Good afternoon, Commissioners. First, I'm going to start with an administrative update. The department's vacancy rate is currently 45%. 32 of our 58 authorized positions are filled. We had 3 employees start on Monday, July 18th, reducing our vacancy rate from 50% to 45%. We were at 50% the last time I reported these numbers to you. DCR has several job offers outstanding. We have job offers for 3 office trainees to cover 2 of our administrative clerk positions within the licensing team, and then 1 accounting clerk position that will help process the invoices as well as record payments as applicants and licensees pay their invoices. We've also made job offers for 6 management assistants. 5 of those management assistants would be joining the licensing team if those job offers are accepted. Those outstanding offers could reduce our vacancy rate down to 30%. We still have some critical vacancies outstanding. My most critical one is the land use analyst. Unfortunately, we lost our land use analyst at the beginning of June, and we haven't been able to backfill that position. So as the director mentioned, we do have a backlog of records requesting land use review, and we're working with other city agencies to try to address that specific issue as quickly as possible. And we do think we will have a solution in early August. We have 7 supervisor and management positions that are vacant. After filling all of our frontline positions, we are looking to fill those supervisor and management level positions. And then of course, we have a number of administrative positions that are vacant, and that would be the 3rd group of folks that we would look to hire. They would be assisting with grant applications, executing contracts, the budget and personnel work of the department. In terms of licensing, we have over 710 licensed businesses operating within the city. Approximately 30% of those businesses are social equity businesses. Currently, we have just over 1,100 businesses in our pipeline, and folks are moving towards either having their pre-app deemed eligible for further processing, which enables them to submit a temporary approval application, or they've submitted a temporary approval application. They're looking to get to a status of local compliance underway, which means that their temporary approval application has been deemed filed. And then from there, they're looking to complete either the initial inspection or the initial inspection and the equity share review prior to receiving their temporary license from the city. DCR had temporarily disabled the DCR licensing portal over the weekend. The maintenance that was scheduled for the DCR licensing portal did not impact social equity individuals applicants or prospective social equity individual applicants' ability to submit their eligibility verification requests. Those requests are submitted through a different portal. So the downtime associated with the enhancements had no impact on someone's ability to get their social equity individual applicant eligibility request submitted. One of the new enhancements we moved over into the production environment over the weekend is a legal business entity record. That record is going to house business formation documents, entity numbers used by other government agencies, such as the California Secretary of State entity number or the business tax registration certificate number associated with the legal entity, the owner's primary personnel authorized agent, if applicable, and it will allow for the equity share review to be conducted on the legal entity record. The benefits of this new record are it's going to reduce our renewal fees. We're no longer going to be collecting owner and primary personnel related information as part of the renewal process. If from time to time the legal entity needs to update the list of owners or primary personnel, they can go ahead and submit a modification request to update that legal entity record. But we will not be requiring folks to submit ownership and primary personnel related documentation every year as part of the renewal process. It also will ultimately reduce application fees for entities that submit multiple records. Under the original process, folks had to submit ownership and primary personnel related information, as well as business formation documents for every single record. By creating this new record that's going to house this information, once the information has been vetted by the department and deemed complete, they won't have to submit any additional information unless the information filed with the department changes, similar to the way that, you know, folks don't have to update their Secretary of State filings every single year. They just have to basically notify the Secretary of State that nothing's changed and their existing documents are valid. So this will also streamline the modification process. We will no longer be accepting modification requests on either the temporary approval application or licensing records for ownership or primary personnel changes. Those can all be facilitated through this new legal entity record. And then of course, the benefit is folks aren't going to have to submit different modifications for each of their applications or licenses. They can submit one modification request to update their owners and primary personnel through this legal entity record. And once it's been processed by the department, those changes will be filtered down to any applicable applications or licenses issued. And one of the other benefits is this allows for the equity share review to be conducted outside of the application process. That's going to be important because folks that are looking to participate in the phase 3 retail round 2 lottery may be able to get a jump start by creating their legal entity record and then paying the associated equity share review fees, such that that review will not have to be done if they are selected to submit an application as part of phase 3 retail round 2. For the legal entity record, these are the forms and documents that are now going to be housed on that record, which means that we will also be able to update our temporary approval application requirements to remove these as requirements for that process. That will, of course, streamline the temporary approval application process, and folks will have to have a legal entity record on file on a go-forward basis in order to submit a temporary approval application or pre-application review. Until the department's fee study gets updated, what will happen is we won't be reviewing these records unless the department has an application or license before the department. And then of course, once an application has been submitted, the fee would cover the documents that are associated with the temporary approval application, as well as the documents that need to be housed on the legal entity record to meet the document requirements to receive a temporary license. We have several future system enhancements that are anticipated to be rolled out through the end of this year. We will be updating our modification request records. As I mentioned, ownership, primary personnel, and entity changes will need to be submitted against the new legal entity record. We're going to be giving existing applicants and licensees the opportunity to submit their legal entity record before we start charging fees for reviewing the legal entity records. Of course, once our next fee study goes forward, the legal entity related forms will be removed from the temporary approval process, and there will be a completely separate fee associated with it to vet the legal business entity. And we anticipate that will happen sometime this fall. We are looking to automate our record process. That would enable disable modification requests based on individual record data. Under the current code, folks have the ability to submit certain modification request types within the first 60 days of filing their temporary approval application. And then after 60 days, they're not able to make those modifications until a license is issued. We want to be able to automate that the manual process has led to delays and the requirement to manually review certain modification requests, which of course has been time consuming. And I know during the public comments, one person had, voiced concern about some of the processing deadlines. Also, as part of our way to streamline and reduce the kind of the workload on individual analysts to make sure that we're meeting these processing deadlines, a lot of the notifications are automated through the system, and DCR staff just don't have the capacity anymore between managing all of the existing licensees and all of the applicants in the queue to continuously remind people of what the requirements are and what the shortfalls are. So with the adoption of the ordinance in April of 2022, that set forth mandated processing timelines, as well as established timelines for applicants and licensees to submit information to the department. If information is not submitted with those timeframes, it will result in the abandonment of the record. To the extent that folks have paid applicable fees and submitted something for the department to review, folks may have an opportunity to cure any deficiencies that are found during that review, subject to the payment of additional fees. But if folks are either not paying their fees or they're not submitting information to the department, once the processing or the timeline to submit that information or pay the applicable fees has passed, those records will just automatically get abandoned, and we will not be proactively reaching out to tell folks, hey, this record is subject to abandonment in 5 days, it's subject to abandonment tomorrow. The system's just automating that process and things are just happening so that folks can focus on processing applications. We're also looking to simplify the modification request process so that folks can add consultants, lawyers, and other non-owner contact types that are maintained on the application or licensing record. If possible, we're looking to eliminate the $542 review fee and make these contact changes a simple disclosure so that the applicant, licensee, or their authorized agent can go ahead and go into the system, make necessary changes, and then get them to submitted, and they just get applied to the record without the payment of fees or DCR having to review that information. Other things are an e-payment processing solution. As I mentioned in prior meetings, we're working with the Office of Finance. We are simplifying the fee and tax codes associated with all of the different phases and getting them consolidated into one set of fee codes. We will be presenting a fee study to the City Council, and hopefully that will be adopted later this year. And then once Council's had the opportunity to consider those changes, we will be working with the Office of Finance and our consultant, Excella, to implement an e-payment solution through the DCR licensing portal. And then the last system enhancement we have planned for this year is we're looking to interface our licensing portal with a geographic information system so that information can be pushed to our online mapping resources as it relates to the information under DCR's control in a more real-time manner and get updated more frequently than once every 1 to 2 months. Next, I'm going to briefly talk about the emblem program and health permits. The director previously mentioned some of this. The city and county executed a contract to implement an emblem program. So LA County's Department of Public Health will be beginning to accept applications and do inspections of retail businesses with on-site sales. They will also be accepting applications and doing inspections for other health permits associated with all commercial cannabis activities. This will be a phased implementation. Phase 1 will consist of retail businesses with on-site sales. Our existing businesses will have the opportunity to request a site evaluation in 3 different geographic regions. The regions are based on where we have existing licensees as well as pending applications. As the county kind of opens up the process, collects the necessary information to conduct the site evaluation, once they've done all of the businesses in each of the geographic regions, they will begin accepting applications for non-retail and delivery businesses. And then once they've completed the existing batch of licensees and applicants with a status of local compliance underway, this will just become part of our application process, and all businesses will need to go through the LA County Department of Public Health process prior to the issuance of a license. For retail businesses with on-site sales that have non-retail activities also, folks will have the opportunity to request a site evaluation for their non-retail activities during phase one. If a business is not ready to go through that site evaluation, they will not have to. They can just go through the site evaluation for the retail business and the corresponding health permits so that they can get their emblem. We will be doing a webinar next Wednesday on July 27th. I know our communications team is in contact with the Department of Public Health, and they'll be sending out a communication shortly with more information. And then, as I mentioned, existing licensees and applicants with a status of local compliance underway may be eligible for a streamlined Department of Public Health permit process, which only requires a site evaluation. If a business does not pass their site evaluation, they will be required to go through the county's full process, which includes plan check and site evaluation. For folks that do not have a license or their application does not have a status of local compliance underway, when they do enter the Department of Public Health's process, they will be required to do both a plan check and a site evaluation. And my last update is on our social equity individual applicant eligibility verification request process. The deadline to submit eligibility verification request is Monday, July 25th, 2022 at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Late requests will not be accepted. To date, approximately 850 verification requests have been submitted. Fee waivers have been applied to all submitted verification requests, and we do still have fee waivers available. And just one question that's been coming up from the social equity team is a question related to tickets and citations. So I do want to let folks know that if you are issued a ticket or citation for a misdemeanor, that is considered an arrest. In California, Penal Code Section 853.6A kind of outlines that California has a cite and release practice that allows for the issuance of citation for a suspected unlawful activity without requiring the citing agency to bring the suspect to jail for a formal booking. So if you have been ticketed and cited for cannabis possession, that could be considered an arrest for the purposes of verification for the social equity program. And with that, we've reached the end of agenda item 3, and I turn the presentation back over to you, Commission President On.
I want to thank you, Mr. Clean. Thank you, Ms. Garakian, for that presentation. As usual, a lot of information, a lot of critical updates. At this time, I want to open the floor to questions and deliberations to my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Naro?
Yes, I just have a question. In the governor's, the recent budget process, he took the steps to curtail some of the taxes that, many of the, as you're aware, many of the local dispensaries owners were complaining about being over-regulated and the tax system. But my question is there any dialogue happening with your department and in City Hall relating to looking at that, but also other issues relating to the regulations of because I think there's a lot of stuff coming out now that everybody feels that the system is too over-regulated. So I'm not sure if there's any discussions happening in City Hall right now.
Hi, Commissioner Naro. How are you? I'll take the first hit at that. There are a lot of discussions happening at City Hall. There's obviously discussions happening at the state. We just had a call yesterday with our the city's lobbyist up in Sacramento, and it does look like there are going to be some tax reduction to cannabis, state cannabis excise tax in the governor's trailer bill, but we don't know unless, Jason, we do not know ultimately what's going to be in there until we know. But it is their intent to look at some tax decreases. There has been several ballot initiatives, not on the ballot, but there have been several initiatives that have been proposed by local outside groups. One, I think, that was just sent to the clerk's office that is also looking at the reduction of local taxes. We've yet to fully analyze that, but I do know that there is discussions internally happening. And I believe that, the cannabis industry has, like all industries right now, are having a difficult time. And part of that is looking at better ways to enforce against illegal businesses. But, and that's the stick. The carrot is also looking at potential tax reduction. So there are conversations happening in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Any other questions, Vice President Mason?
Hi. I want to thank Director Garakian and Assistant Director Colleen for the reports today. I was particularly encouraged to hear that the emblem has been announced publicly and is being well received. I'm also particularly encouraged by your department's collaboration with CLA to identify best practices for enforcement across the country and see if there are any that can be adopted in Los Angeles, because that, as we know, is a huge area of concern, especially in the social equity community who's already fighting so hard to get a profit. And that's definitely a barrier, and it has a negative impact on their profit margin. So all that the city can do to be a good partner in the enforcement area is greatly applauded by me. And I do have a question about the lottery. I understand that there were some delays, that some applicants were not particularly happy about the delays. And I just want to make sure that the department is making every effort and every safeguard is in place to ensure that these applicants are not prohibited in any way through any actions of the city from being able to compete in the lottery when the time comes. That's it.
I know you didn't have a question in there, but I would like to respond to your comment and also to say thank you, Vice President Mason, and we appreciate the support. I hear you loud and clear. Transparency is the #1 tenet over here at the department. And as such, and Jason, I believe, had said this in previous commission meetings, the city will be working with an outside party to conduct the lottery. It is our intent to offer the lottery by the end of this calendar year. And the reason why we are moving fast on that is because the state has a deadline for social equity applicants to get their provisional license in June 2023. So we are working as quickly as possible to get through the verification process, get through the lottery process, so that social equity applicants, who are going to be the only applicants that are eligible to apply in Phase 3 Retail Round 2, have the opportunity to get their provisional license before the expiration date, the state expiration date. So transparency is going to be our #1 goal in this process, and we're going to work with a third-party vendor to help operate that. We're actually having an internal discussion later this week to go through this entire process from soup to nuts.
Okay, then here's my question. Thank you for that.
Yes.
So if the verification process is delayed through no fault of the potential applicants, what's the department doing to mitigate that? So if the delay is internal.
Like, would there be an example of why the verification process would be delayed? Like would it be the 90-day period in which the department has to let folks know that they've been verified?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Or just processing an application.
We have been preparing for this for like 6 months. So, and Jason did talk about a little bit about vacancy rates. We are working, so it's essentially our second job is to onboard folks as soon as possible, because it's not just the verification process that we're beginning, it's running our licensees through CEQA to prepare them for the annual application process as well. So there's multiple different very equally important initiatives happening at the same time. So, we are hoping everything will go smoothly. In the rollout of this process, we have been very cognizant to use our BLC vendor from the outset to communicate, to provide collateral material, to be an open book, and really provide as much material as possible, and just kind of constant blast to let people know what's going on. So the outreach and the communication, we really focus on to make as accessible as possible and easy as possible, so that folks know come the deadline on the 25th that there's no way you can remit an application, and that we're going to work very, very hard over the next 90 days or less, I hope. And I'm going to talk with our staff about that, to process those applications and let people know that they're going to be verified. So
Thank you.
hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you. I just, I have flashbacks to the last phase, and we all do, I'm sure. And I'm just hoping to lessen some of the negative impact. And I applaud you guys for the work that you're doing. And I'm sure you're doing everything within your ability to make sure that this phase is much more flawless than the last phase.
Yeah, we all have memories of the past, and that is the specific reason we got the jump start on the verification process, and we really went all in on communications here. There's no surprises, no secrets. People know what's out there because we have just been nonstop with our communication. So I am praying and hoping everything will go swimmingly. Yeah. So that's where we're at right now. I will report back at our next commission meeting exactly where we're at, how many applications we received. Again, trying to be as transparent as possible. So not just
I look forward to it.
but our whole constituency. So thank you,
Absolutely.
President Mason.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to echo some of Vice President Mason's sentiments. I think the communication, I'm so glad to hear such a priority being placed on the communication and the transparency. And really the integrity of the process is so important, especially with this upcoming lottery for the next round of retail. It's been very highly anticipated. And so it's important that we are well positioned to get things done timely, efficiently, and in a very transparent manner. So very happy to hear those efforts are well underway. And I do appreciate, the licensing is just one part of it. In order for these license holders to succeed, there's a lot of environmental factors as well. Commissioner Narl, you brought up the taxation concern. And also Vice President Mason, of course, the enforcement is always at the forefront of our minds because, the climate right now for these businesses is very difficult. And with the illicit market, it just makes things much worse. So we just got to make sure that we're keeping an eye at all levels. It's so critical for the success of the local cannabis industry. One final question that I have was I got some calls regarding the portal and the website was down, I think, due to maintenance. Also, there might be some connection to the vacancy. Can you guys speak a little bit about that, just so we have some clarity as far as where we are and what to expect moving forward?
Absolutely. I'm going to start it off and then I'm going to kick it over to Jason. Thank you, President On, for your comments and for that question. As folks are aware, during the last ordinance update back in April, the council very generously essentially approved 22 new position authorities for the department to specifically help with licensing, processing, CEQA, annual applications, et cetera. We got a $22 million grant from the state to do that, since the state does not want to do CEQA processing themselves. As such, our vacancy rate has jumped. However, we are working, very vociferously to backfill the positions. Some of these positions we lost, some old folks we lost in April, and fill these new positions. So Jason, do you want to jump in? Maybe we can bring up that slide again. You're on system enhancements. I think it's the one before this, Jason. There we go. Jason. Hello. See there?
My apologies, I was on mute.
Classic.
Can you repeat the question?
Commissioner On just wanted to know what's going on with our vacancy rate, how that's impacting our processes, et cetera.
Sure. So a number of the existing vacancies are tied to the new position authorities that were adopted. One of the most critical vacancies that we had was an existing position that was doing our land use review and facilitating the pre-application review and modification process. And we're working with the departments of city planning and building and safety to work toward a solution to bring somebody in that has the skill set to do that job. And Rocky has been in conversations with building and safety, and we believe that we're going to have one of their recent retirees who's familiar with the development services center processes, the mapping and the zoning requirements, being brought back on a 120-day contract to do this work until we have the opportunity to fill the position and then train somebody up on what the unique requirements are. In terms of the other positions, we are short-staffed with supervisors and managers. We have frontline supervisors, and then basically you get up to the executive management team, and there's just not capacity to kind of spend time on the day-to-day issues, as well as put together the plans to implement all of the various things necessary to implement our local regulatory structure. So a lot of the focus has been on preparing for environmental review, the transition to the annual license process, facilitating the equity share review, doing these eligibility verifications, allowing for the registration, all of these streamlining things that we've been doing. And there have been requests for meetings, for assistance with different social equity related issues that we just haven't had the capacity to deal with. And by bringing on additional supervisors and managers, that will allow for us to kind of meet all of the varying demands that are coming to the department. In terms of the system, as part of the system enhancements that were pushed out this weekend, we were implementing new workflows for our records that factor in the legal entity record and then prepare the records for a reduced renewal cycle process. And we're migrating all of our existing records to that new workflow. So on Wednesday of last week, we temporarily turned off the ability to create new records because those records would have been created in the old workflow. And then of course, we turned back on the functionality Monday afternoon. So folks are able to submit new records and request modifications to existing records through the portal. It was a scheduled maintenance to allow us to launch the legal entity record, which was kind of implementing the council's desire to allow folks to do equity share review outside of the application process. And we also met with Council Office 8. Councilmember Harris Dawson was adamant about trying to find a way to streamline the application review process and kind of account for things that have been reviewed that aren't changing application to application. And one of those things, of course, is legal entity. If the legal entity is registered, if the owners and primary personnel haven't changed, we've already vetted that information. So by creating this legal entity record, the documents that typically don't change from application to application can be housed on that record, reviewed once, and then provided that information doesn't change, we can then just collect the information that is associated with a particular proposed business premises, focus on the premises diagrams, the leases, and the things that are unique for that specific site. And by focusing on just that stuff, it reduces processing timelines, it reduces fees, and it streamlines the process. So we worked in close collaboration with his office, and we took his suggestions to heart, and we were able to roll that out this weekend.
If I can just add a little bit, President, on, there was a bit of, I think, concern in the community that this vacancy rate was, it seems concerning, but I think the numbers are a little bit skewed because ultimately we had 22 new position authorities added to the department. So it's actually, we're getting more staff and we need to fill that staff in order to assist with the CEQA and licensing process. And so it does skew the numbers a little bit, but we're continuing to plug along on our licensing process, especially for phase 3 retail round 1. You're seeing those TA numbers increase every single week. We remit those numbers to the mayor and to various council offices. Furthermore, I do think it's very important to point out that we have never really shared this information before and kind of what's going on behind the scenes. I think, at least under my tenure, it's really important to demonstrate transparency and what is going on, because the folks that we service are in business, and businesses need to know what's happening with our department in order to make business decisions. But I don't want this to scare anybody or concern anybody, because we're still continuing to process applications. We're just getting a little bit more help. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that explanation. I think it's very helpful to understand these distinctions and get the clarifications. And I also see that Commissioner Crockett has his hand up.
Yes, thank you, President On, and thank you, Executive Director Garakian and team. I really 2 points I wanted to touch on. Jason, you mentioned, or you gave a great explanation of kind of the justification for the portal updates. I just want to confirm that the broader community is given advance notice of portal updates, and what that process or how much advance notice is typically given. That.
So we do our best to send out the communications and then post stuff on our website as it relates to when the portal will be down for scheduled maintenance. We do use a commercial off-the-shelf solution that's customized for our specific business needs. So there's times when the vendor is updating their software platform and the system's down, and we get limited notification of when they're going to be pushing updates and patches to their system. But for things like this weekend, we typically bring it up as part of our commission updates, our one-on-ones, to let folks know these changes are coming. And then as we get closer to implementation, we let folks know how many days the system may be down for. A lot of times we're able to push stuff without bringing the system down, but to the extent we're moving to new record types, we're moving to new workflows, we need to make sure that all of the records that are in our system are accounted for and migrated over, so we don't allow new records to be created when we know something major is going to happen, which is what happened over the weekend. We had mentioned it for probably 2 weeks, and we knew that we weren't going to take the system down for more than 15 days, which requires us to notify the city council. But it wasn't until Thursday afternoon, I believe, when the communications team sent out a communication that we knew that the system would be down Friday morning and would be back up by end of day on Friday.
Okay, thank you. That helps. It sounds like you're doing everything. The department is doing everything in its power to give as much advance notice, and we just encourage that trend to continue. My second question around the vacancies, and I certainly don't want to harp on this point. I think you all have done a great job of explaining the raw number, which I'm sure does give some viewers a little bit of shock when you hear 45% vacancy, and those additional 22 heads are a benefit to the overall cannabis community ultimately once they're filled. But I am curious, do you have a sense, and I know you've triaged the critical vacancies, do you have a sense of what positions have been hardest to fill, particularly not of those initial or those new 22 heads, but are there positions that you're finding it's either difficult to find someone that has the requisite experience or skill set, or that people just aren't applying to certain positions?
Can I jump in here for a sec, Jason, Colleen, for the question, or the response to Commissioner Crockett?
Sure.
So the city, I mean, this is all city departments are required to go through the civil service hiring process. A lot of folks just think that we put a job posting out there and anybody off the street can apply and it would work like any other kind of business, but that's not the way it is. There is very specific rules and regulations, Jason and Commissioner Crockett and Commissioner On, all you guys know, it's the civil service process in the city of Los Angeles can be cumbersome. Over the last year and a half, 2 years, there has been a freeze on hiring in the city. So no departments were able to bring on new employees unless they were critical. As soon as that freeze was lifted, every department needed new positions. And so what's happening and what you're seeing happening, I'm hoping this is going to calm down because I do communicate a lot with my fellow executive directors and GMs. And we're all kind of going through issues right now, bringing on folks because it's just so competitive. There are a lot of positions available in the city to fill across 40 different departments. The Department of Cannabis Regulation, when we were first setting up the department, we chose the most, I would say the most common classifications, which are management assistants, management analysts, public relations specialists, et cetera, so that we would be able to get the most amount of applicants. We're not as specific as like DBS with like a structural engineer or planning with a planning associate, et cetera, et cetera. We feel we can bring in general folks and we can train them as necessary. So a lot of departments are dealing with this. It's very competitive. I'll give you guys an example. A couple of weeks ago, we were in interviews for I believe in management analysts and a management assistant, one on Monday, one on Friday, from about 8 a.m. to about 5 p.m. As soon as we're done with one particular interview, I'm communicating with our personnel agent to make a conditional job offer to that individual. I don't want to wait 1 minute. If I think that they will be suitable in the department, let's bring them in. Because I know how competitive it is out there. I just did a casual interview with a potential management assistant yesterday. He has 5 job offers on the table. So I had to be with him for 1 hour to essentially, really cajole him into coming over here. And I'm really praying that he accepts that job offer. But we're leaving nothing on the table. We're jumping on every opportunity. Our personnel person is working overtime. And so these are all kind of important distinctions as we're going into this and thinking about this. And, we did get the position authorities for 22 extra positions, which inflates the vacancy rate a little bit. And so we're trying to bring 22 new people into the department, which is difficult in a time like this, but I assure you that we're going to get it done. And by the next time we have this meeting, we're going to continue these updates in this meeting, these vacancy rate updates in these meetings, because I want to be clear with this commission. I want to be clear with everybody listening out there. This is our number one priority, is getting bodies in seats to help process applications and provide good customer service to the folks that are engaging with our department. And I want to thank the council again for providing us that position authority, because I do think it's very important. We are a small department, we are mighty, but we have a lot of responsibility. And more bodies and more folks and more staff are going to be absolutely elemental to our success.
Thank you. It is incredibly helpful to have understanding of the external circumstances. So thank you.
Commissioner Naro, did you have a question? Saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I just, well, first, thank you, and especially you, Jason, for your detailed reporting. I used to run a city program in every city, so I know exactly how the civil service process works, and it's very beneficial for a lot of workers, but then there's also it's a process, and I know how competitive it can get because I used to suffer with losing potential applicants to other departments, and I know how crazy it gets. But if there's any way we can help, just like call on us if there's any way we can help, with, if something gets like clogged up in the system somewhere, or if you feel like the department is being deprioritized, because it's, because as you know, the city council and everyone, they deal with so many issues, multi issues at the same time. So just let us know how we can be helpful in any way possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Naro. We certainly will reach out. Without a doubt. This is why I wanted to thank the mayor and Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson's office in the beginning, because they have been so helpful with this process, really. And we're looking at all the tricks that we can possibly utilize in order to bring folks on. Trust me, being very inventive.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to continued updates, in particular on this front. I know how important this is, and unless there's any other questions, I think we're about ready to adjourn. Vice President Mason? Anything else? No? All right. Again, I want to thank all the staff that made this meeting possible today, in particular, Michelle Grakian, Jason Kleen. I want to thank my commissioners for joining today as well. With that, I'm going to adjourn today's meeting.
Oh, he adjourned.
What's that?
I was going to congratulate you on your reappointment.
Oh, and congratulations to you. It's a great honor. And I want to thank my colleagues for the reappointment. Vice President Mason?
It's an honor to serve as well. I'm just happy to continue to serve the city in this capacity and to have this unique opportunity to influence an infant industry, not only in our city, but also in our state, and continue with the charge to make this a model program that everyone can look to globally as a way of establishing their own program. So I'm honored.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to add, congratulations to you both. And, I watched some of the C-SPAN, I watched some of the first ever national conference on cannabis a couple weeks ago, which, tells you how boring my life is, watching C-SPAN. But LA comes up a lot. There's a lot of focus in Los Angeles when you talk about this industry, and they came up in many different panels in Los Angeles, the cannabis industry. Yeah, so we are like, the country watches us closely when dealing with these issues. But thank you, and congratulations to you both.
Yes, thank you. Those are really important comments. The work that we are doing here, both on the commission and at the department level, it is very, very important. It's a difficult job. This is, really history in the making. We're going through it for the first time. Being the largest cannabis market, really in the country, poses significant challenges, but at the same time, a lot of opportunities. And it's our job to really identify and unlock that potential. But it's not going to always go so smooth, right? I mean, we've experienced that. We're experiencing growing pains as we go, but it's important that when we identify those challenges, we make sure we address it. We pivot when we need to. And first and foremost, we keep our constituents and our applicants in mind. We are in the customer service business. I've been saying that from the get-go. And so those folks demand nothing less. And so let's just be mindful of the mission at hand. We are here to support you guys at the department level. I know the significant effort and the challenges that you guys have faced, but I believe we've really turned the corner and the future is bright. So very optimistic as we head into this home stretch. So again, I want to commend you for your work and thank you all. And with that, I will adjourn today's meeting at 3:16 p.m. Thank you very much.